Why, hello there, everyone, and welcome to season 6, episode 28 of Dualistic Unity. My name is Madame Jacqueline Nicole of I don't know where I'm going with that. And by my side is my loyal friend and court jester, Amanda.
Indeed, I am. It is a pleasure to be at your side, madam. And I look forward to many more adventures and lots more antics because, of course, as a court gesture, one must be always up to play. Oh my God, I love you, Jigga. That was brilliant. I love it. Today, today we talked about some really cool so it was a really cool conversation about just our relationships to reality, everything, everyone around us, are the investments that we make in control, and how we think that the discomfort means there's a problem. And it really isn't. There isn't an issue unless you make it. For the most part, life is full of possibilities and everything is always on the table. So make a choice and just see what happens, because we've never had control. We never will. And yet somehow we're still here. So let's fucking do something. Let's go, people.
You heard it here, folks. Here first, folks. Fuck around and find us out. And enjoy this episode. Recording in progress.
I know that was almost as fast as the math I just dodged, everyone. I was just showing Jackie, I have the little time converter on my phone so that I don't have to do mental math to figure out like what time is it for me versus her or someone else. And yeah, that's what I do. But
Working smarter, not harder.
yes. But I was thinking about how I would like to re-explore my relationship with math, because there is so much math that is used in day to day, whether we're talking about time conversions, East Coast, Eastern Standard versus Pacific Standard, or, trying to figure out what 25% off of $100 leather jacket will turn into, just math is everywhere. And so it just feels like, it's getting harder and harder to avoid it. So I'm thinking I might just re-explore my relationship with math. And then that got me thinking about how I'm in relation with everything, with reality, with myself, with topics, you know, um, with my life, so it gave me a moment to just reflect on how I am technically in relation to everything and everyone all the time, even if I'm not like officially in like a relationship with math, but like technically we are.
Yeah. And there's so many like mathematical properties and like phenomena, I guess, that are symbolic for, larger patterns within the rest of my experience. And that's just one example of how, like you said, we can connect to everything and anything, be it like a topic like math, another person, like something in nature, a piece of music or art, because everything quote unquote externally is not really external. Like there's no division. And so the reason that we resonate and connect to things is because there are different parts of ourselves. And usually if we have like you said, you want to heal your relationship with math or whatever. I feel you on that because I hated math. Like in high school, I it's weird because I was good at math. I was in like the advanced math classes, I took calculus in high school and I hated the fuck out of it. But it's really like I don't know, there's something about math, like it just all kind of works logically. And once you figure out how to do it, it can be kind of fun to solve problems like that, especially like word problems when you have to be like, okay, this is the equation that I need to. And same thing for like statistics. I hated taking statistics. It's so fucking It's so fucking useful. Yeah, and it is all around us. I recently started serving, and with that, there is a lot of math involved of like calculating like your tip percentage or like your PPA, which is your it's like your price per guest, so like how much each guest is spending on average. Um, and I've been finding that fun. It's like I get to do my little equations and it's cool to having it be applicable in your real life and have it mean something to you. And then I think you can actually connect to it. But you could use it for literally anything. So I think that's always interesting. I haven't really thought about math since high school, but everything around us, it kind of embodies its principles. And I think Um, I just love seeing how symbolic the outside world is of like me internally and how it reflects by like my perceptions of things.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that, that mathematics is not this thing that's supposed to cause me a headache, right? It's usually, or I hate it. And it's usually because like it just seems so foreign, or it just seems like I don't see the connection between myself, the application of math, and my life, but when I think about it, I use math, or I use some form of mathematics all the time, just like you said, when you're calculating your tip percentage, when you're doing your taxes, when you are but making your monthly budget for your bills and maybe some, miscellaneous expenses, snacks for me. But that's a part of your groceries. And then like, because when you're making your grocery budget, you do want to balance between like the things that you would like to buy for a very nutritious, balanced diet, but a couple of like cheat day items, but you can't buy, you don't want to buy too many cheat day items for various reasons. But I just thought that, math is all around us. And so it doesn't make sense for me to think that math is this foreign thing, this burden that I sometimes have to endure. And when I am in the process of calculating something, that I need a calculator or a device or some type of tool to do the work for me. And it's really not that hard. And I love that in different countries, they approach teaching math in different ways, and there's different techniques. And that to some degree, math is a universal kind of language. And math goes into a lot of the coding for computers and apps and all of that. And so it's like, to be proficient or literate, to be math literate is wildly beneficial. And so I'm thinking, how much have I been holding myself back from like being able to interact with my environment around me, being able to possibly pursue different opportunities? Because I thought that if there was a math requirement, it must not be for me, And so, and I'm certainly not going thinking back like, oh, I haven't lived my math dreams. I'm just like, there's still time, right? There's still opportunity. There's still potential for me to explore. And so math doesn't have to be something that I actively avoid. It's something that I still have the ability to re-explore. And so I have recently become very curious about math. And so I've been going to like Khan Academy and doing like little online exercises. And I've been re-exploring becoming more fluent in Spanish. And so I have been embracing exploring different topics lately, and utilizing different resources and tools on the internet. And so, when I'm around friends and family, especially people that haven't gone to, post-secondary school, college, and things like that, I'm like, so what? You've got free college right in your phone. Like you have the sum of, maybe not the sum, but like a good amount of information that's accessible to you on the internet, on your phones. So you don't have to own a computer. And so, you can kind of create your own, the University of Amanda. It's kind of what I think about it. Like, I am the dean, the professor, and the student. We're trying to make sure we don't have any riots on campus. Got to keep the students happy. But it's just kind of taking a more enthusiastic approach towards like my relationship with learning. And so I'm so glad that math kind of inspired that, because I kind of feel like we're always learning, and my mom and so many others have said that like your life is the classroom. And that, for me, that feels so exciting versus like, oh, life is a class. When's the test? It's like, no, there is no test. There is no test. It's just that life could feel like a classroom, and you could be in a constant state of learning, and there's no test if you don't want it, but you can always challenge yourself. No test required.
Love that for you, Amanda. Yeah, I think recently I've been realizing that I'm like, what am I consuming on a daily basis? And to be honest, it's a lot of bullshit. And it's funny that we get caught up on the internet and what what are we actually using that for? A lot of times it's just like random people's vlogs or like little skits, which are fun, or, you know, other people's lives and emotions and what they're wearing and like what they're doing, like people posting, traveling the world or like, I don't know. I think I'm so overwhelmed sometimes with being able to see so many different options of like things that I could be doing, like ways of being, and being exposed to that on a daily basis especially on an app like TikTok. Holy fuck. Sometimes I feel like TikTok is like a toxic waste sludge being pumped directly into my brain. But that could just be my relationship with it and my tendency to sometimes overdo it on the TikToks. I will own that with my chest. But yeah, like I've been in this state of like consuming so much or like just being overwhelmed with everyone else's voices around me. And I'm like, what do I actually want to fucking do? And it's hard for me to figure it out when there's so many other voices competing with my own. But like, I love that you're diving back into like learning about things and like exploring new topics or like new hobbies because all of that is available. And I'm like, well, I kind of feel like I'd much rather be using my time doing something fruitful for my brain, not like in the sense of trying to get anywhere, but just because I think about like all the time I've spent on social media or like on the internet just consuming shit mindlessly. And I'm like, that's like years of my life at this point, because I got an iPhone when I was maybe 13 and I'm 23 now, so that's a decade of being like of using my iPhone. And I'd rather my life be full of like different tangible real things that like I can put my energy into. And yeah, you could argue I could be creating and posting more on TikTok and Instagram, which yeah, fair enough. I think that's not, if there is a better way to be using social media, I think creating on it is one of the best things that you can do because at least that's like an outward expression rather than just consumption. But I don't know. Like recently I've just been wanting to like delete my apps for a little and like detox my brain from all the dopamine. Ugh, that's just real honest. I still get caught in the doom scroll, you guys. I'm not out here present all the time. It's definitely not true.
We all do that, and that's okay. I think as well about how do I use different tools. I think about how do I use the internet, and like any tool, for the most part, you can use them to learn and explore as much as you can use them to distract. You can use the tool to create a connection or to create a divide, to build a bridge or to build a wall. And that's totally okay, because that's just letting us know where we are currently invested. And I love that, we were talking about this yesterday during the DU reel, and that we are invested in a lot, and we've been investing for years. You talked about getting your first iPhone at 13. That's exactly when I got my first regular cell phone, the not the pre-smartphone phones. And I was 13. that that's even how I made my number. Like the last four digits of my number were 13, 14, because I was 13 turning 14. So I absolutely remember like so vividly the age that I got my phone. And that was it wasn't so prominent when I first had gotten that phone. And so there is a difference in the environments, the social environments. But the temptation was still the same, still to get caught in this new device, this new tool, and then comparing which model I had to someone else. Do I have the newest phone, or am I in this? Do I have like an old junky, secondhand phone? Do I have the cutest case? Do I have the most amount of friends? What does my phone book look like on it? And so it's just like, man, that's just an experience that I think we share a lot more often than we would care to admit. But that is always on the table. And I love that I just saw the episode with the guys, Andrew and Ray, where that's called "It's All on the Table," because everything is always on the table. So yeah, doom scrolling on the table, getting distracted on the table, being present on the table, it's like we're always here and we always have all of these options. And no matter what we pick, it doesn't mean anything about us. All it is doing, not all that it's doing, but one of the things that it's doing is just that it's reflecting back our own investment. And if we don't really like that investment, that's okay, because we can change it. Just it's got like I have like this dice, and it's like lady luck, low, low, just throw another hand, just throw another hand. Like it doesn't matter what you choose. Don't judge your choice, because then that usually keeps you, in the mindset that keeps making that same choice that you keep judging. It's just look at where's the investment? What are we holding on to? What are we trying to get? And just being honest about that, and then seeing like, why do I want to get that? And to some degree, it's because we think that where we are or who we are showing up as is not good enough. And that thought is so tempting. But that is invested in identity. You're invested in the identity that you have built. And so your thoughts reflect that. And so I'm so grateful that we always have every choice on the table, including the ones I judge and including the ones that I haven't even tried yet, because I think that I'm not going to be able to handle it. So fuck it, just keep going, and hopefully be space for maybe something else to be chosen. I don't know. It's a work in progress.
Yeah. I love that you said it's all tied back to what you're invested in, because really it's not about whatever behavior you're doing to escape. I think I just have a tendency of trying to escape my life. That's something I'm a runner, dude. She's a runner. She's a track star. I'm like fucking running away from my emotions and my whatever. Um,
Yep.
my responsibility is, I don't know, like all the pressure I put on myself, I'm like running away from it. And then I'm also like chasing myself down, being like, get back here, get it together. No, and the me running is like, no, you're scaring me. Stop. That that's what it feels like sometimes. And so yeah, when I'm doing things like doom scrolling or like, I don't know, maybe getting caught up in relationships or not wanting to spend time by myself or, overusing certain substances, there's countless ways to escape. I just try to have empathy for myself. Like it's really not about the thing itself. And me judging and beating myself up for doing those things and being like, you need to get your shit together. That's what's keeping me in this state of like fight or flight, or fight, flight, or freeze. And a lot of the time I think I choose freeze. And so it's like that's that keeps me stuck, of being invested in some sort of bar expectation for myself and thinking that it needs to go a certain way, and being afraid to, like you said, try that new choice that I don't think I'm capable of yet. um but and I don't want to create another narrative that I like am not growing and changing by the day, because I fucking am. And I think that self-compassion is what gives you the space to be like, okay, maybe I'm not gonna wake up and go on my phone immediately. Let me like get up and, have some breakfast in silence. Or I know when I need to do those things, when my brain is just craving silence and it feels good and I feel things shifting overall, but I guess sometimes it feels like it's not happening as quickly as I want it to, but nothing ever happens the way that I want it to, so I can fuck off.
Hurry up. That's what I constantly hear from my brain. It's like, hurry up, figure this out. We've got to get somewhere, And it's like, I really don't. I really don't. Oh my goodness. But I certainly have a habit of running. I love that you sang. I love that you jumped in. Just like we just have to laugh. Oh, we don't have to, but it's an option. An option is that we can just laugh at how seriously we take things and how invested we become in like this character, and and how that investment adds pressure and weight and stress, and we're like, i'm getting I'm getting stressed out in playtime and imagination time. Like that doesn't seem right, and I can remember being very young and playing with other kids, and when I was the one kid who got super invested in a certain game. No, it has to be like this. No, we've got these rules. No, we've got we're playing freeze tag. When I touch you, you freeze. Damn it, Billy, I caught you. So, and then people didn't want to play with me, and I was like, okay, maybe I don't need to be the one that's in charge when we're playing. Maybe, what, we let it slide. And maybe I will catch Billy in front of someone, and then someone else will see that I tagged him, and then he has to freeze, or we're just like letting things slide, letting things go, not taking things so seriously. And because it wasn't worth not playing at all. And that's what I remember as a kid. It wasn't worth not playing with other kids. It wasn't worth, not being grumpy and upset just by myself, having a one person pity party. It just wasn't fucking worth it then. And it felt like it was so much faster to kind of get to the it's not worth it portion of that whole loop. Um, and nowadays I will see that, it's not that I am not a kid and I can't do it. It's that I've been so invested for so long that it almost seems like second nature to be invested, to take something seriously, to want to run at 1,000 miles per hour to the next spot. Um, and and that's not true. I don't have to take it seriously. And that doesn't mean that I make zero considerations. And I think that's where I got things confused, is that, I thought that as an adult, I was supposed to take things seriously. And because it was serious, it wasn't supposed to feel like play. And there's no actual justification that I can think of now that says that things that are serious require total absorption, total focus, obsession, stress, weight, and absolutely no play. And because a lot of the times when things have gone seamlessly at work, in romantic relationships, in friendships, with family dynamics, with interpersonal conflicts, a lot of the times things either work themselves out, or when we finally took that stick out of our asses and could sit down. It's hard to sit with a stick up your ass, it's really hard. You sit and you just push a stick up further and it hurts. And you get angrier and crankier. So metaphorically, you take that stick out of your ass, it's a lot easier to sit down and relax, And usually when I relax, things just happen to just or unfolds a little more effortlessly. Not that there's no effort, but that things didn't have to be so stressful in order for it to be taken seriously. It didn't have to be stressful, and so that's just been a fun thing to re-explore, Jackie.
I resonated with so much of that. And oh my God, the image of like having a stick up your ass and not being able to sit down, because that's how it feels. Like you're like you see everybody else sitting down, you try to sit down, the stick goes up further, you're like, "Ow, fuck." And then you're like, "Yeah, fuck you guys." And then you're like, you don't realize you're the one with the stick up your ass, and you're just mad that like everyone else seems to be relaxed so easily and you don't understand how that could be. Yeah, that explains why people get so triggered when you're like when you don't care, like they can't get a rise out of you. Um, but I used to be bossy as a kid a little bit. And like I wanted everybody to follow the rules. And if they didn't, I would like you said, a one person pity party. And then that feeling of like sitting by yourself, maybe you're crying or like being pissed, and then you're like, you have to like get over yourself. Because like nobody is coming to check on me. Like I stormed off dramatically. Y'all were supposed to follow me and beg for me to come play with you. People don't give a fuck. Okay. And then you walk back out, you're like all sheepish. And I don't know. And they either want to play with you again or not, but like either way you learn your lesson that it's not worth it. And yeah, even today, like at work when people like randomly will snap at me for something that's not my fault or like I don't know, like a friend bails on me last minute or something. I'm like, okay, well, I could get all pissed off about this, but do I like I really am not invested in any sort of outcome, or like I realize that like the way I want things to go is just the way it's not the way that they really will ever go because the way I my imagination of the future isn't the future. I'm like, there's not really a point to attaching to things that don't exist and then getting pissed off when they turn out not to be the case. Like it's like it's obvious to me now. And so like maybe there might be a initial reaction, but I'm not the type to like start an argument or try and boss people around anymore. I'm like, you know what? Fuck it. Like I'd rather just continue on with what I'm doing and making the best out of this situation because it's not worth it. And or to like try and convince people to agree with you, even like you're very clearly attached to some sort of control or being right or knowing best. And I don't. And I know that. So it's like, agree to disagree, I guess. I don't really give a fuck.
I love that you said that, just not worth attaching because it it doesn't feel like it anymore, and I still get tempted sometimes. I still tempt myself and I'm just like, yeah, screw them. And then I'm like, I can't control anything. And so having this like one person grudge party, one person, fuck them party, it's lonely, it feels incredibly isolating. And I hadn't previously been able to see how much I isolated myself because I get pissed, man. I would get so angry with people for not doing things my way because I really thought that my way was the best way. I thought long and hard about these things. I put in thousands of hours of thinking and researching and note taking and piecing things together. And I was just like, God damn them for not appreciating all of my hard work.
How dare you question my genius?
Yeah. And I really thought that my way was the best way because I was seeing people and people were embodying a lot of the times this mentality, do what I say, not what I do. And I didn't like that. And even if they were doing what they said they would do, I usually didn't agree with that because they looked so miserable. And so I didn't want to emulate other people that I didn't want to live their life. And it just felt like I was, like I was the best person who could come up with what my life was going to be. And I still agree with that a little bit because no one is going to be able to give me the best advice about what to do in my life except me, because I have all of the previous considerations, all of the previous experiences from my perspective in my life living as me, right? So who's a better expert on Amandaisms than me, right? No one's going to give me the best option to move forward except me. That does not translate across the board. I used to think that because I knew what was best for me, I also could figure out what was best for you, and that was so arrogant. And now the way that I feel is that I love to brainstorm. I love to even get upset with you and be like, yeah, fuck that person. Now what? You know, like I am here for you. I am here. Let's have a few minutes where we're just like, yeah, you know what, fuck that person. You know what, fuck them, and damn them. And all the we go do all the things that we want to talk about them for. But then after a certain point, I'm like, okay, now that we got that out of our system, now let's brainstorm some ideas, some of your interests. Let's explore that, and let's talk about where you think you might want to go. Because once you're done crying, complaining, damning, cursing everyone around you, that doesn't actually do anything for your life and your experience, other than puts on a great fuck them playlist in your mental DJ system up there. And so after that record's played, we actually might want to explore what you'd actually like to do now. And so I love brainstorming and asking certain questions. And maybe I might have an idea that you like, but ultimately, you're going to be the best person to decide what's going to work for you. What are you interested in? What are you curious about? I'm re-exploring math and Spanish because I have an interest in it. But if someone were to tell me, you should really look up physics because, it's going to be really important in the job market in 50 years and it's really going to do X, Y, and Z. But if I have no interest in that, that suggestion, that piece of advice is meaningless to me. So it's just like, what are you curious about? Explore that. Let that change 1,000 times in an hour. So fucking what? I'm interested in math and re-exploring Spanish so that I could be fluent again. I learned that Spanish has a lot of Arabic influences. I'm thinking about looking up Arabic, learning a little Arabic, just because. And past mindset would have been like, well, you need to finish one language before you can start learning about another. Excuse me, says who? I can go in any direction I want. I can explore any curiosity with consideration, right? I'm not going to be learning how to build C4 fucking bombs because I'm curious about them, like with no consideration of like where I'm going to set those fucking bombs off. Like with what seem like reasonable considerations, I can explore any curiosity. And so just giving myself almost like space to just go in any direction and not having to plant a fucking flag to then be in the land of mathematics. And now this is what I'm going to learn for the next 5 months. No, I explore what I want to explore when I want to explore it. And I don't judge myself for how long I want to explore it. And I used to do that a lot. And I think that's what helped keep me paralyzed in like, there's so many options. I don't know what to pick. Pick fucking any of them. Pick any of them, because yes, there are infinite options, but you couldn't pick all of them at the same time. You kind of have to pick one at a time. So just pick fucking one of them, go in that direction and just see how you feel when you explore that, and then let how you're feeling and how you're experiencing that, how you're exploring that curiosity kind of be your guiding light as to where you want to put your attention next, because you can spend your attention in any way and there's no best way, just maybe an honest way.
And I feel like your awareness of how things actually make you feel will grow over time because I don't know, like I definitely have realized that certain habits that I have of avoidance or like the choice to scroll rather than like read a book or something. And that's not always the choice, I've explored a great amount of things. Dualistic unity is a manifestation of me exploring my curiosity, you know. My yoga practice is a manifestation of that as well. And yeah, it's just like recognizing that and being honest, but then choosing to make a different choice as sort of like the parent to yourself, like for example, if I was the mom and my kid loved eating sweets, but then every time they ate candy or whatever, they threw up, I would have to be like, hey, I know you really like this candy, and I also know that it makes you sick. So maybe we should think about that. And maybe you could have a little candy, but you can't fill up on candy because you know it doesn't make you feel good. The same way of me with my phone. I'm like, okay, maybe we can scroll for 10 minutes, 20 minutes, but you know it doesn't make you feel good when you like wake up from like a 2-hour doom scroll and you're like, oh, what the fuck? Like, where did that time go? Right? And you know that like it makes you feel kind of unfulfilled. And so just being able to pay attention to that and like listen to yourself and then actually adjust accordingly, I feel like that's a sign of maturity, of like, being able to do the uncomfortable thing that's better for you in the long run. Or not like better for you, or you just know it's the choice that you genuinely want, not the one that's habitual. But that can be hard to break out of our habits for everybody and anybody. And doesn't really matter what the habits are. Like anything can become too consuming, even like going to the gym or like running or meditating. Like I feel like you could take anything too far, even if it's a quote unquote good thing. So just like that's where that awareness and sensitivity, that's the sensitivity part of being sensitive to how things make you feel, um, in what times of day you like to do things or in what way, how often, with whom, like all of these things are things that you're constantly assessing in your life. And you don't know anything with certainty, but like you can have influence over like the little choices in your day. Um, and those make all the difference. So slowly and surely, I feel myself coming out of like a stagnation period. I don't know. I feel like I change with the seasons. So like I'm de-thawing right now and I'm like doing more things out in the world and exploring new avenues and hobbies and things. I started playing the piano again. I haven't fucking touched my keyboard in like months. So, I'm de-thawing and it's happening however it's happening. There's no rush in how any of these changes happen. But I have realized that I've been feeling better the more I've been stepping into the things that I actually want to do, making those uncomfortable choices. And so, yeah, it's all just in this state of like dynamic balance with how you're spending your time, your energy, your attention, your emotions, all of it.
Oh, fuck yeah, I love that. What do you want to do? You can do anything, and you can definitely just take stock of, like, when you think about where did all that time go, it's like, oh, it went from running, from being here. And it's like, why? Because it's like you think that you're not going to like it. You've made an assumption that you're not going to like it. And it's like, and sometimes you need to have those one person pity parties where you just end up bummed, right? And I absolutely resonate with that. And being funky when you want to be funky, like that's just as awesome. And it's satisfying in its own way. Because there are times where like I don't want to do a damn thing. And I mean, like, not even scrolling on my phone. Like, I just want to sit on a couch and just be a depressed couch potato. Just like, fuck, I don't want to do anything, and legit give myself space to just do nothing and to throw the ultimate, like, unobserved tantrum, just like, I'm not doing anything. And I've done that like on my couch and just straight up like have gotten home from work one day or have gotten home from like doing one errand that morning. And it's like I made it back home and I just like collapsed on my carpet right outside like right inside. Like you walk into my apartment, there's a big carpet. And so like walking to the apartment, turned around, closed the door, locked it, and then just like took off. I don't think I took off my coat, and then I just like collapsed on the floor. And I was just being so dramatic. And it felt great. It felt great to just be like, oh, I don't want to do, I can't. That's it. Life. I just can't right now, And then after a while, I got bored of that. And I was just like, all right, this is getting bored. I don't want to, I actually want to do something. It's like, what do you want to do? Anything. And I think I picked like dishes or something afterwards. I was, because then I wanted to make a snack. And I was like, we don't have any clean dishes. Okay. Okay. So dishes. dishes and then snack. And then I started doing the dishes and I was like, nope, don't even want to do the dishes. It's not even worth it. And then I was like, maybe dance, fuck it. Why not dance? And so I put on some music and I just was like dancing and I was like not really into it. And then I was just like, oh, this is awesome, and just kind of let myself feel all the feelings without exploring exactly why I was feeling those things, without needing to come up with a reason to stop feeling them or like a reason to like snap out of it, and it just being space for myself to be as dramatic or as enthusiastic or as childlike or as just giving myself space to do that, especially because or especially in my personal space, right? I tend to be the most dramatic when I am by myself because I don't want someone to try to fix that. I don't want someone to try to speed that up. And I don't want someone to think that it has anything to do with them. So I tend to be the most dramatic, collapsing on my floor because I just can't. Like I've never done that in front of other people because it's like I don't want someone to manage my emotions, to manage my feelings, because I am the best person to be the space for all of my feelings without taking it personally. And sometimes I do take it personally, but I just mean I tend to be the most dramatic by myself because I just want to be able to be the space that is not judging that and is just letting that unfold. And maybe that will be shared in the future one day. But for the moment, I feel like I love doing it by myself. And I love usually how fast I tend to snap out of it all on my own. Usually my average right now is like about an hour. Like I usually am like the most dramatic for like about an hour. And even if I'm with other people and I'm like my social version of dramatic with other people, I tend to be really quiet. I'm processing. I'm giving myself space. I might go for a walk. I might go to the bathroom and just like put my head against the wall and just like give myself a minute and then like, okay, and usually I snap out of it in like an hour because I'm just like, it's not worth it to stay in there for much longer. I gave myself space, but then I'm noticing a tendency to just get through, like to feel it within a pretty quick time because I feel it fully. Like I am feeling wholly dramatic in my living room or in a bathroom or in space with people and by myself. Like I'm feeling it as much as I can, and not trying to justify and not saying like, oh, I'm so sorry, or not saying like, I shouldn't be feeling this way. Like I feel it. And then I just, you know, usually I'll feel something else. And so I don't know how other, or I don't know another way to explain that, but that definitely feels like the experience that I've been in lately. Um, because there's so much to feel. And I love my dramatic times because, you know, life doesn't always feel that way. And I appreciate when life just kind of feels like very relaxing and very, lack of theater, lack of drama, and I love those moments just as much because I it feels like I'm fully there as much as I can be on either end of the spectrum. And so I don't mind dancing or crying or dragging feet across the spectrum because I'm like, yeah, this is it right now, guys.
Yeah, that resonates a lot of like just giving yourself more space to feel things even if they don't make sense to you. Like I had a situation the other day where my friend made me breakfast and I was like so excited to eat it. And it was like my plate was sitting on the side of the table and I like picked up my fork and the plate fell on the floor and I started crying like a toddler. Like and like my first impulse was to apologize and be like, sorry, I don't know what's wrong with me. But because that's a whole nother conversation, my tendency to like care about everyone else's emotions and feel like mine are a burden. That's an interesting set of thoughts that I have. But yeah, more recently, I'm just giving myself the space to like feel whatever the fuck it is and not be like, okay, this doesn't make sense to cry about, so I'm not gonna cry. I'm like, no, I'm sad. I'm gonna cry. Like, it meant something to me in that moment. And yeah, I'm dramatic as fuck. And I was invested in eating that breakfast. Yes. But but I don't have to hold on to either of those things. Like I can just feel the thing, feel the thing, not judge myself for it, not really have to figure it out. And the feeling it is what is processing it. Like letting it in, allowing yourself to cry, allowing yourself to like lay in bed and feel sorry for yourself for however long you need. Eventually, you're going to get sick of that. And then the processing, it might not be over, but like you can move on and you don't have to keep like fixating on this thing that you feel like you need to be sad about and like holding on to that, because the holding on is what keeps you in that state. Otherwise, your emotions will kind of just pass through in an organic way, whether you and you kind of figure out how to nurture yourself when you're in certain states, like whether like you need to just fucking cry it out, whether like you're the type that needs just space to breathe and think, or like you need to get out in nature, or yeah, go for a walk or move your body, like for feelings like anger, or frustration, moving your body, dancing, running, working out, doing yoga, like all of these things are great tools that kind of help the process along, but you kind of have to figure out what works for you. Um, and it's not going to be the same every time, and that's okay. Like emotions are very much in the air and hard to like you can't really understand why you're feeling something. You can never say with certainty what that is, but you can know that it's okay to feel however you're feeling. That doesn't mean like because you're feeling sad, this is objectively wrong and bad. That's not what I mean. But like the feeling is allowed to be there. And you could just recognize that it's coming from an attachment to something. It's coming from, maybe something in your past, a perception that you have, a relationship you were holding on to, something that you were pushing down for a while that has come up. There's tons of different things that it could be. You don't have to figure that out though, but don't push it away at the same time.
No, I definitely tried the pushing approach. It just backfires every time. Every time it backfires, because you're not really feeling it. You're judging it as being wrong or unproductive or lazy or unnecessary or a burden or something along those lines. And because you've judged it so quickly to be unnecessary, unrequired, you push it out. But then but that doesn't get rid of it, right? And I love that you said that, like feeling it is processing it. That's not getting rid of it, and when it ends, it's not actually ending where it's like a final, like with a finality, like it ended and so I will never feel despair again. No, it doesn't work that way. Everything is always on the table, including having, feeling sorry for yourself, including not taking yourself seriously. Like everything is always on the table. And so if you are feeling upset, if you are feeling, hard on yourself, if you are judging yourself, others, a combination of the two, that usually is because you're invested in control, and the echoing thoughts about that control and investing in that control is that if you don't control this one thing, that's it, you're in danger, something's wrong, this is high alert, and there is no control. And I have felt that, when things didn't go my way, when things didn't go the way that I thought that they should, when things contradicted my expectations. And that's what I love about this experience of being life, of being reality, is that reality doesn't really give a fuck about my preferences. And I have been getting that message constantly for so much of my life that it's like, maybe I'm onto something. Maybe my preferences aren't the foundation of my life. Maybe it is a part of the foundation, or what it feels like is my attention, my focus, you know, and a part of how I spend my attention, my focus, my time is based on what I'm invested in. And so, I can always just look at the things that bother me. And I love that now I can view my discomforts, my insecurities, my fears and doubts as almost kind of like its own class, like its own it's because it feels like I'm learning about what I'm holding on to and how I don't actually have to hold on to it because I had a life before that expectation, before that insecure existed. And I always go back to like being like really young, being a baby, being a toddler, being, 2, 3, 4, 5, like a lot of the insecurities that I have now didn't exist then. So I proved to myself that I was here, I was walking around, I was living, I was alive pre the most common insecurities of this moment, according, in my life. And I'm like, shit. And I did the same thing with like exes. And I used to, be like, oh, I miss him so much. And, like, damn, like maybe our problems weren't that bad. And but I was like, yeah, but you existed and you had a whole life and you were loving your life before you even met him. So your life doesn't need him in the same way that my life doesn't need me to worship my preferences and to do nothing but try to get them, met, get my needs and preferences met. I don't have to. I existed before any partner, friendship, family member in the same way that I existed before these insecurities that I constantly am feeling in my day to day now. And so it's like a fun way to remind myself like there was space, there still is space. It, I'm not the insecurity, the attachments aren't the only thing. And so and so by inadvertently reminding myself of that, I zoom out. I'm like, oh shit, there's a whole world out here. And so I laugh, and sometimes I cry because I'm like, oh, why did we get so caught up? And it's like because we were invested. Of course we got caught up. Of course we got caught up.
And we can still like, you don't need to get rid of all those investments in order to move forward. You can move forward while still being attached to something else. Like a relationship is a perfect example. Like when you break up with somebody, that attachment isn't immediately gone. You still probably think about them all the time. Oh my God, who's calling me? No. um,
Already.
it's my sister, not right now. I'll call her back later. Yeah, like you're not going to get over it all at once, but that doesn't mean just because you feel like attached to them that you need to continue talking to them, or like just because you're attached to like a habitual way of doing something doesn't mean that you have to do it that way every time. If you realize that it's not working, or like I don't know, your sensitivity and awareness has developed to a point where you recognize that something needs to change. And um and yeah, like we can't expect ourselves to just get over something that we've been reinforcing for repeatedly, for however long in our lives. And that just doesn't dissolve into thin air, which sometimes I wish it would because it would be easier that way, I guess. But at the same time, like wishing it was easier is kind of discounting myself and how strong I already am. Um, so it's been cool, like, I went through a breakup last year and like it's still like I still feel attached to certain aspects of that relationship. Not that I want it back or anything like that, but like if I hear a certain song, like I'll think of him. Do I text him? No. And it's just learning to live with that and knowing that it's okay. Like you don't need any one person, any one situation, a career. You don't need to have a specific routine to feel okay in yourself. Um, and that's how you kind of, I feel like, make peace with those situations. Is that like, I don't, it doesn't need to be like all or nothing. Like, I'm 100% invested in this thing, or I forget about it. I never do it. It's completely out of my life. It's finding like the peace with being somewhere in the middle, because that's usually where you feel the most balanced and at ease within yourself, because you're not like denying your feelings, but you're also not giving into your feelings immediately, or like your habits immediately. Like there's sort of this buffering between the immediate processing of whatever situation you're in, whatever emotion you're having, thought that's coming up. You process it, feel it, but then you're like, okay, but I kind of can discern what choice I actually want to make rather than the one that just is my immediate reaction, which most of the time is linked to our habits and conditioning.
Yeah, I love that. It usually that space in the middle is almost like it feels like you're not letting go of an identity that you are somewhat to some degree invested in, and you're not thinking that you are only like a spirit having a human experience, or you're the universe without any identity, without any.
There's no me. There's no me.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. It's like you're not trying to say that you're just the universe without an I, and you're not saying that you're just the I without, being your reality. It's like you're in that space in the middle, and that's usually a lot lighter, and a lot more playful. It feels like it's just almost like when we were talking about yesterday in derail, that it's like a dressing room. Like it feels like you're walking into this dressing room that has no door. The doors, so technically the entrance and exit is always open, and you're able to walk in and out. And when you walk out, you're feeling very universal, right? Very, I am, reality is everything, existence is existence. And when you're in the dressing room, you're like, I feel fabulous, or I feel terrible. One of the two, one of the two examples of many. But I love that you are able to walk in and out of this dressing room, put on any character, invest in any role, but not die for that role, and not trying to say like, I never go into the dressing room, I am above that, I am the universe, there's none of that. It's just being comfortable with that duality. And so that's why I love the podcast name Dualistic Unity, and embodying that paradox where you feel like there's a little I and no I, and something in between and something out of it. So it's both neither. It feels like a paradox. Life feels like a paradox. And I'm like, I don't know what's going on. And then I got to a point where I was just like, but I never did. And that never stopped me. That never fucking stopped me, guys. I have never known anything, like not with absolute certainty. I've never had certainty. I've never had control. And by golly, that never stopped me from being like, from getting caught up, for being dramatic, for snapping the fuck out of it, for bursting my own bubble, for feeling like the universe, for feeling like a small little person, and so I've never had control. I've never had certainty, and that's never stopped me. And so why should I expect it to stop me going forward from being this paradox of what feels like unity and separation and everything else that I haven't even considered yet.
That was beautifully said. Yeah, like that's like the juicy, mysterious, exciting part of life. And that I feel like is such an empowering space to be in at the same time. It's like you said, it's light, it's playful. Um, you can dabble in things, but you don't need to be attached to them. They don't actually mean anything about you. It's kind of like you're suspended in this jelly of uncertainty, and like you can do whatever dance you like. You can explore as you please, and nothing ever means anything about you. But that doesn't mean you're going to understand what you actually are. It's like, no, I really don't know anything. Wow. Sometimes I really fucking try and think I do, though, and I believe it. It's funny. Yeah, it's like I go into the dressing room and I'm like, I put on a costume and then I actually believe that I'm whatever I'm dressed up as. And then it's like I'm in a dream for a second, and then all of a sudden, like I'm acting out something, and then I wake up and I'm like, what am I doing right now? And then I like can change. I can like run out of the dressing room and be everything again. That's always an option. And like it really doesn't matter what time, how much time you spend in either of those states of being caught up or being free. Because also when you're super caught up for a long time and then you realize it, that like realization makes you feel more free afterwards. You know, like that buildup of tension makes the release feel even sweeter. And then if you're always in this place of like being unity, you get detached from, you know, what most people are living in all the time, which is just like thinking about themselves, their ego, not seeing themselves as anything beyond the individual. And like you can become detached and you won't be able to empathize, or like maybe there probably are things that you're not seeing, or, you know, maybe not on as extreme of a level, but like thinking that you don't you don't fall victim to your ego or get caught up. That is like you're in the dressing room. You are in your ego when you think you when you believe that you've transcended your ego. So, um yeah, it's fun to watch myself dance in and out of the dressing room on a daily, hourly, second, I don't know if secondly is a is a word, but in, you know, however long it takes for me to fluctuate in between those states. And I'm learning more about myself and gaining more context along the way. But yeah, I think it's just symbolic of the duality in everything. Like we have this like experience of a split within ourselves, but I just think about like even protons and electrons, right? They they are like attracted to each other, and like certain forces repel each other. Um and it's funny though, even though protons and electrons are attracted to each other, they never actually like really meet. They just kind of circle around each other in this like empty space. And that's kind of what we're describing, is that these two forces are circling around each other within the empty space that is us, or our experience. Um, and it's so paradoxical, and everything is symbolic. And it's just so cool to observe like myself, both like as this human, but also like as everything else on this larger scale, and seeing how I'm connected to all of it without really even knowing how or why. And it's like kind of building my faith in however I'm processing, whatever I'm doing, whatever I'm dealing with in my life. It's probably being influenced by and affecting things that are like I would never even think about. And so me trying to understand and hold on to certainties about why I'm feeling, thinking, doing certain things is not seeing the full picture in the fucking slightest. So I can just have faith that it's working out the way that it is. Like, not even that it should be, just the way that it is, and everything is happening intelligently. So it'll work out in the way it's supposed to, because that's the way that it's happening. Yeah. And then it's just like I'm kind of along for the ride, here to look out the window and appreciate the view.
That's right. Or order nitrous and get this fucking car going. No, I'm kidding. um, but I just love that. Just developing more trust in yourself to show up however you are already showing up, and just not judging it. And that's, I think, something that surprised me was that I didn't necessarily change my behaviors immediately. I it felt like I just judged them less, and by judging them less, I didn't feel so obligated to make a different choice, you know, and or obligated to change the behavior, because I wasn't judging it so harshly. So it just felt like there was like a flexibility that just happened to just, I just took it like to just take more advantage of, because you're always showing up in every moment. So you actually don't have to start doing that. Like you're always showing up, like all the time, like every single moment. We are here, we have shown up. yet again. We're on a 10 for 10 streak, people. No, I was kidding. But you're always showing up. It's the judgment of how you show up doesn't have to happen as much, or it doesn't have to feel as concrete. Because again, like I love how you said too, Jackie, that you're not getting rid of the judgment. You're not trying to get rid of the judgment. It's just maybe not taking it as seriously when you do judge it, or seeing what's driving the judgment, which investment you're holding on to. And you're like, oh, well, no wonder I judge myself for doom scrolling, because I still am invested in being productive. I'm still invested in being successful and smart and serious. And I'm still invested in the perception of other people, because that's how I compare my productivity to someone else's, or my laziness to someone else's productivity. And I'm still invested in that. Oh, well, why am I invested in that? It's like, okay, well, then, to some degree, I think that how I'm showing up right now is not enough. And I don't know that for sure. And that's usually where I stop, where like I'm curious, or I explore, or I notice an investment and I'm like, oh, why are we invested? And I was like, I'm not really sure. And that's okay. But I don't have to take it seriously, because I'm also not really sure on the other side as well. Like why I should not be invested, I'm not really sure. And why I am invested, I'm not really sure. And so if I'm not really sure, then I don't really know what the best thing is. But I know what I'm doing right now. I can at least tap into how I'm showing up right now and how that feels, and be honest with myself. And sometimes we laugh, and sometimes we cry, and sometimes we just tell ourselves to get the fuck over it, and to not throw a pity party. Sometimes I tell myself, like, it's just not worth even to throw the pity party even for 1 minute, let alone a few hours. And I'm just like, it's just not fucking worth it. But that comes with, me being comfortable with sometimes giving myself space to throw the pity parties, and sometimes being like, not today. I'm not really feeling it. I choose to do something else this time. Not every time, and so that just seems like a lot more compassionate towards myself. And then the more compassionate I am towards the way that I make my investments, the way that I show up, somehow it just ended up feeling like I was more compassionate towards other people, because when I saw someone else being really invested in something that they thought was important, I saw myself. And so it felt less personal, like they were doing it to spite me. And instead it was like, oh no, they're doing exactly what I did. They're just trying to feel better. They're just trying to get some certainty. They're just doing their best. And it has nothing to do with the Amanda character in particular. This is really them showing up how they think they should. And just noticing how hard it was to get pissed at people when I could see why, or I could at least empathize. I could see myself. Maybe I couldn't see why, but I could see myself in what they did. And so it got really hard to like gesundheit. It feels harder to judge people the more I see myself in them.
That's very true. And when I'm judging people, that tips me off that I'm judging myself. Yeah, and that can be a tough pill to swallow. It's like, yeah, whatever I'm judging them for, something that I'm invested in. Like if I'm pissed off that maybe somebody lied to me, that's because I'm attached to the idea that I'm like a truthful, honest person, which I perceive to be better, and so I perceive them as worse, and so that's creating a division in between us where there isn't one. And being able to see those parts of yourself that are jealous and needy and desperate and insecure and holding on to pain, and how that manifests in attaching to different things for comfort or some sort of security, then like that's when you can have empathy. But until you realize that, I don't know, the way that we respond to things is just based on ourselves and our own shit, and not and it's not about anybody else. We're not like the center of the universe that everybody needs to act in accordance with. Yeah, it can be hard to see that until you realize that. So But I have empathy for the part of myself as well that holds on to that shit. And I'm like, okay, doesn't mean you need to express it to that person. But if you're bitter or angry or holding on to something, it's coming from a place of hurt. And yeah, it makes you feel good to get on your high horse. But it's lonely up on that high horse. It is. And it actually doesn't get you anywhere. You're right. Like you're just kind of just holding on to this thing that is hurting you and keeping you in the same place, really, because if you can't accept that you might mess up or fail or look stupid or look dumb or even like maybe hurt somebody's feelings or piss people off, because a lot of the time, if you're speaking from a place of truth and authenticity, even though like that is, I would say, like, I feel like being authentic is like one of the best things that you can do for yourself and other people. Like, it's not always going to get you a positive reaction, but if you're attached to the reaction and the idea that that means anything about you, you're going to avoid being as authentic. Um, and then you'll probably judge people for being authentic because you can't let yourself do it because you're afraid and you have a stick up your ass and you see all these people sitting down, chilling, shooting the shit. And you're like, fuck, I can't join their party. Stupid, lazy hippies. You know what I mean? Then it becomes about them. But nope, it's only ever you. It's only ever your shit to deal with, and do that however you may. Just know that none of it means anything about you and none of it will last forever.
Right? The person with the stick up their ass. And I remember being in this mindset, and I still have a stick up my ass sometimes where those chairs aren't regulated. You can't sit on those chairs. Those chairs aren't. You know what? You can't even sit in those chairs. It's there's where's the certification? Huh? 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 Finding anything to latch on to because I was so jealous and upset. That's what, oh my God, that used to piss me off so much. I used to definitely embody and describe myself as a type A personality. Yo, type B, relaxed, go with the flow. People used to infuriate me so much because I would see them succeeding. And I was like, you just woke up 10 minutes ago. How the fuck did you get that, that job interview? Like, how did you get this promotion? You can drive? Who let you on the road? I used to get so upset because it felt like they were not as stressed and they were still going forward. They were still, taking new opportunities. They were still enjoying their life. And I was like, how dare you? How dare you enjoy your life without having a structured plan like me? That's what society said, and you're not doing it, and that's not right. And so it was just, I was such a hater. I was such a hater. Oh my goodness. And so I definitely can recognize when I see people sipping on that haterade today, or when I'm sipping on that haterade, and I'm like, oh, we're hating. Why are we hating? They're not doing anything that we couldn't do, but I'm scared. I'm scared to take that step that someone else is taking. And instead of looking at why I'm scared to take that step, I judge the fuck out of someone else who took that step. And I absolutely embodied that. And that still is a feeling that I feel every now and again. I just am a lot more honest about that experience when I'm in it, more so than when I was younger and just pushed it away. Just like you said, I would rather push it away than admit that I'm just scared to do that because I think I can't do it, or that it will go wrong, or that by admitting that I don't have control, all of a sudden everything will just become crazier. It's like, oh, motherfucker, we never had control. And it's not like because we don't have control, there are landmines every fucking step of your life. It's like, oh no, any step could be the last step. Oh no, guys, like it's not.
Yeah, it's not like Squid Game where they have to like jump on the specific tiles or they fall to their death. That's not how the reality works. There's not laid out plans.
Thank you. Thank you. That's exactly right. Life is not Squid Game, even though we straight up act like it is. And you're like, any step is my last step, guys. You don't know. And it's like, and even though, like, to some degree, that is true, right? your last step could be your last step, right? Like there is, but that is so unlikely. You know, it's just so unlikely for it to be like the last step. Like it's gonna like blow up and it's gonna become splattered on the fucking downtown building wall. Like it's just like, but we straight up act like life is very much a life or death, high stakes, high risk scenario, you know, and like that is only the case if we're not doing a socially approved uh, lifestyle, if we're not living that. It's like life isn't all of a sudden super uncertain and all of a sudden super unpredictable and dangerous. Life has always been unpredictable, and yet somehow there's still ways to enjoy it. There's still ways to learn from it, to be challenged by it, to be uncomfortable, to experience the unpleasant feelings without it being, you know, this life or death scenario. And I love that you talked about, you know, just how we are always trying to, you know, do the right thing, and we get upset with ourselves, and we don't provide ourselves with space, and then we wonder why life feels so stressful and so hard. And it's because we make it so hard on ourselves. It's not that life is hard because I didn't make the right choice, is that life feels very hard when I don't trust myself to make any choice. And that is such an easy tendency to fall into because you see everyone else around you doing that. And it's so easy to maintain. And I love how you put you know, you want to be up on that high horse. And it's like, I don't want to be on a high horse with a whole city full of people on their own high horses. We could just get off the fucking horse and walk together or sit or do anything. You know, I don't want to be connecting with people that are also just doing the same thing that I'm doing. um I appreciate that there's more than one option. and and but I understand, or not understand, but I remember the feeling of falling into one best way, the only way, and getting super upset with people about it. And while we're talking, the Nelson Mandela quote came to mind, which was like, holding a grudge is like drinking a poison and expecting the other person to get sick, because it only really hurts you when you hold a grudge, when you're so hard on yourself, when you judge yourself. Even if you think you're only judging other people, that only happens because you judged yourself first, and you're judging people as a way to validate your own self judgments. And there's no way, there's no control or certainty that you're going to get from other people or from life, if you just continue to judge yourself. And so just I guess explore, just keep going, just keep exploring, because you just don't know for sure what anything means or what anything is going to do, how it's going to, what direction it's going to take you in. But just keep going, and don't put so much pressure on yourself to make the next best choice. You know, make the most of the choice that you're on right now, and that's a good place to start.
Yep. And I'm going to say this real slowly for all of y'all to hear and get through your noggin, because God knows I don't fucking, I've said this so many times and it hasn't sunk in. You don't know anything. It's not going to go how you think it's going to go. And you've never had certainty ever. And that's okay. And there's nothing to do or go with that. Like, I want to put like a pretty bow on this conversation and be like, yeah, here's the lesson to take with you. It doesn't exist. Um, it's going to be unsatisfying forever. And then you could just make peace with that. The fact that it's unsatisfying and paradoxical and frustrating sometimes. Uh, but yeah, I think that's as good a place as any to wrap up our episode today. Yeah, this was a really, I feel like, honest conversation. For me, sometimes it's hard to admit that I sometimes struggle to change my ways, because obviously I'm attached to something. I'm attached to the idea of myself that I used to make myself feel better for most of my life, because I was already beating myself up so bad. So I understand why it's there, but we can let go. And It's always available to us at any moment, no matter how caught up we get. That doesn't mean we have to stay caught up forever. It's like in any moment you can make a different choice that is always within your your power. Like you are capable of so much more than you think, even though it feels like we're so limited. Like at once we know nothing, and at the same time we're God. So yeah, don't forget about that part too. But yeah, thank you all for listening. And we have Do You Real every Friday, 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific, our live stream. So check that out. And we'll see you next time.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, everybody. This was a great chat exploring our discomforts and and kind of talking about how the discomforts and the dissatisfactions in your life aren't a problem to solve. They're just an opportunity to look at what you're invested in, and your discomforts are in another way, an unmet expectation. You're upset because you had an expectation that's not being met. And that's an opportunity to look at what you were invested in that should have happened. So thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Bye for now.
Bye bye.